Okay, welcome back to the second episode of Load of Balls, and we're going to get into the new Srixon XV ball. First of all, quick few images, and we're going to get straight into some description of at least what Srixon are saying about this golf ball. So here's a couple of images. Unmatched distance, higher trajectory, exceptional flight performance in windy conditions. That's interesting. Greenside control. It is a urethane ball, and it is a 4-piece ball. That is literally read from Srixon's website, as you can probably tell, and that's the tech spec as far as I'm concerned, because it's white, it's round. I really want to know, how did it get on when I started hitting some golf balls? First off, let's have a look what it did into a green pitch. 105 out, 110 out. You'll see this green appear on a lot of the videos that I produced. They were shot at Almanara Resort in Sotogrande. Slightly uphill, slightly into the wind, will have an impact on spin, but let's have a look how it reacted onto the green. Okay, so first of all, you see the first shot that came in there didn't quite get that interaction between ball and turf. And again, said it, big disclaimer, all about strike this, very subjective ball testing and difficult to get a very accurate, without machine testing. Don't forget, this is in the hands of the average golfer, average swing, average strike. So first ball, maybe not the perfect strike, but didn't react too great. Second ball again reacted a little bit better in terms of grabbing and stopping. Before we go on to talk too much about that, let's have a look at the next shot, which was sort of, I would say, a 30-yard, 40-yard chip shot in, fairly lower ball flight. I felt this is where the Z Star XV had some great feel. And again, it seemed to have some very good control in terms of its pitch and the resulting sort of how it reacted again, once again with the turf. And I sort of played this ball 3 or 4 holes, and once again, that was the area I felt it sort of very strong. In terms of longer iron shots coming into greens, I seen it reacting, and perhaps I suppose in a good way, in that it wasn't fizzing back. I wasn't getting loads of traction on the ball, but it was stopping fairly close to the pitch position. So again, you know, it's all about what you're looking for from a golf ball. I think in terms of flight in windy conditions, I said to you there that there was a slightly, the wedge shot in at 105 was uphill and into a windy condition. And I do think overall, one thing noticeable about the premium balls, and this is premium in terms of price, they do have a very consistent, strong ball flight again, and don't seem to, when spin is put on a ball from either side, it doesn't seem to impact as heavily as what I've seen on some of the lesser quality balls, if you like. So I'd say, yeah, it is a strong point from the XV and noticeable. Next thing again was the putting, and don't forget, this is all about now personal feel. Okay, so nice to see a putt drop in there, so clearly like these golf balls. If I was describing the feel of the Z Star XV, I'd certainly say it is soft. For me, it was a kind of, and this is again, this is why I say it's very personal. We can look at, and I'm going to look at some performance in terms of dry ball data in a second or two. It's, for me, a lot of it to do with once you've seen the performance of the ball and you're sort of happy with the performance in terms of what you're looking for in terms of spin, ball flight, then it really boils down to what you're looking for in terms of feel. And I think that's the big issue, and the one that I can't really speak for you. I like the feeling of the Z Star XV. But there was just something about it that didn't quite resonate in sound feel into my hands that I somehow quite liked. And I suppose when I compare it to a lot of balls over the couple of days, it just didn't quite stand out for me. However, performance on it was very, very good and hard to argue. I don't think it's a ball I would particularly game. Final thing is, like I said, let's have a look at, and I did this the other way around on the first video, so maybe messed up a bit here, but I don't suppose it matters. Let's have a look at some dry ball data, and I'll throw up the images on screen now as the distances I hit with the wedge. I tried to, as I've said on all these reviews, keep a similar ball speed, similar swing speed and ball speed to get a sort of consistent number to measure against. You can see this is spinning extremely well at 10.164 in terms of with the pitching wedge. Carry distance were again fairly stable, as was the strike, as was the total distance, and in a few of those you can see it's actually suggesting the ball has fizzed back there under dry ball data conditions. Throw up next is the 7-iron. I said it again, and I'm going to repeat a lot of things. Slightly more variable in terms of ball speed because of club head speed, because of the inconsistency of my strike with a 7-iron, so apologies there. But again, we get the gist. In and around 5.2, 5.3 spin is it with a 7-iron. Is about as good as it gets for me. I hit fairly low spinning in terms of 7-irons or irons in general, and anyone who watches my reviews up at 5.2, that's a respectable number without being fantastic, but it's a good number. Again, carry distances all very stable, and strike was similar. Final thing I want to talk about is my scoring system. So let's go from start to finish, and this is how I'm going to score the Srixon Z Star XV. Okay, so finally we get to the what am I going to score this golf ball out of 10. If you've seen or hopefully you've seen what I've put together in terms of how I'm going to score these golf balls. I'm going to start off with the dry ball data. Very, very impressive. It is hard to be critical, to be fair. The spin on the pitching wedge was particularly high, dropped off a little with 7-iron, but again, I would suggest in where I've been at in terms of spin with 7-iron, I think it's about right. It's not too bad at all without being ultimately fantastic, and for that reason, I'm going to score it a 9 out of 10 in terms of dry ball data. Next scoring is feel. This one is difficult because, like I said, it's very, very personal. And I think for me, whilst I had a soft feeling around the greens, which is something I like, I found it in terms of on the tee and on the with the longer iron shots, perhaps even maybe a little bit too soft, I don't know, but the sound that came from the ball and ultimately the feel that ended up into my head, or the sound, it just wasn't quite there for me. But I think that is a very much an individual thing, but that's the only way I can score it. I can't say that you wouldn't mark it totally different, but I give it a 7 out of 10 for feel. Value is something that I want to look at because golf balls are expensive, and this is in that top bracket. Looking around UK websites, it's anything between £35 plus per dozen for this Srixon XV ball, and for me that's top end, and it needs to offer a lot for me to part with that kind of money. And I think that perhaps it doesn't overall across the board. Perhaps it's just let down, or it has been for me on some variables. So I'm only going to mark it a 6 out of 10 in terms of value. That's a real high price ball for what it's offering for me. Overall performance of the ball I'm talking about, I play with this ball 3 or 4 rounds out there on the golf course, so driver, irons, long irons, short irons. I think that the statement that Srixon made in terms of its stability in windy conditions, I would back up. It was very stable is a word I would use. And I think it was a very consistent performing ball in terms of in and around the greens, wedges in. I do think it was consistent, but for me it was good without being great, and largely down. So I suppose at the end of the day it was the reaction really on the wedge shots in. I didn't think everything was always going to grab, and if I was into a green that was really looking to stop that ball, and on firmer greens again, I'm not sure I'd have got the grip on it that I perhaps have received from other balls. And I'm comparing it to all the balls obviously I've hit when I'm trying to calculate the scoring. So unfortunately for me, overall performance, I would only give it a 7 out of 10. So add all them scores together, divided by 4, and the Srixon XV scores a 7.25 out of 10. And like I said, arguably, just remember, a lot of those things that were marked down were perhaps personal to me, and you would score them completely different. This is a premium ball, premium price tag, and there are elements in there which are, like I said, subjective in terms of the opinions that I've just given. Anyway, that second ball test done. Hope you enjoyed that one. We're going to mix it up next time round. I'm going to throw in a brand that I was not too familiar with. I'm going to introduce to you, or to some of you, Vice golf balls. That's next one up. So as ever, hope you like this one. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, all them things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next episode of Load of Balls.